The broken promise the year was 2157, and Earth was dying. Not from war or disease, but from exhaustion. Humanity had stripped its home planet of nearly every valuable resource. The mines ran dry, the oceans were depleted, and the remaining materials were barely enough to sustain the 11 billion people calling Earth home. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the United Earth Government in New Geneva, President Elena Vasquez stood before the Council of Nations, her face showing the weight of impossible decisions. The reports were clear and brutal. Earth had maybe 15 years left before complete societal collapse. The colonies on Mars and the Moon helped, but they were small and struggled to support themselves. Humanity needed a miracle, and they needed it fast. Elena looked out at the faces of world leaders, scientists, and military commanders. Everyone knew the situation. Everyone felt the same crushing pressure. Then the miracle arrived, though it would prove to be something far different. On a cold November morning, every telescope, every satellite, and every monitoring station detected the same thing. A massive object had appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving toward Earth at impossible speeds. It was not a natural object. Within hours, the object broadcast a message in perfect English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, and 24 other Earth languages. The message was simple and stunning. Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Council. We come in friendship and trade. We wish to meet with your leaders. The world held its breath. First contact with alien life was no longer theory or science fiction. It was real, and it was happening now. The alien vessel, which called itself the Merchant Star, entered orbit around Earth 3 days later. It was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Its hull gleamed with metals humanity had never seen before, and lights pulsed across its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. A shuttle descended to the designated meeting point in New Geneva. Landing with perfect precision in the diplomatic zone, the shuttle door opened, and 3 aliens stepped onto Earth soil for the first time in human history. The lead alien was tall and elegant, standing nearly 8 feet high. Its body was covered in smooth, pearl-colored skin that reflected light like polished stone. It had 4 arms, each ending in delicate fingers, and its face was almost humanoid, except for the 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. Behind it came 2 others, shorter and stockier, with bronze skin and powerful builds. President Vasquez walked forward to meet them, her security team flanking her. The tall alien bowed its head slightly in greeting. President Vasquez, I am Trade Minister Oryx of the Centauri people. These are my assistants, Krell and Mora. We represent the Galactic Council, an alliance of 83 civilized worlds across this region of space. Elena extended her hand, a gesture of peace. Oryx looked at it curiously, then carefully took her hand with one of its own. The skin was cool and smooth. Welcome to Earth, Minister Oryx. We are honored by your presence. Please, we have much to discuss. The negotiations took place over the next 2 weeks in a secure facility. Minister Oryx explained that the Galactic Council had been aware of humanity for some time, watching from a distance as humans developed technology and spread across their solar system. The Council had a policy of non-interference with developing species, but Earth's resource crisis had been detected by their deep space sensors. The Council, Oryx explained, believed in helping species in need. The offer was almost too good to be true. The Council would provide Earth with advanced technology, clean energy systems that could power entire continents, medical treatments that could extend human life by decades, and most importantly, the knowledge to mine asteroids and dead planets efficiently. In return, the Council wanted exclusive rights to mine certain rare minerals found only on Earth. These minerals, Oryx explained, were called viridium crystals, found deep beneath Earth's oceans and in scattered deposits across the planet. Viridium was nearly useless to humans, as it required extremely advanced technology to process and use. But for the Council, it was incredibly valuable. It powered their faster-than-light engines and was a key component in their most advanced computers. Earth had more viridium than any other known planet in the galaxy. It was, Oryx said with what seemed like a smile, a perfect trade. Humanity got the tools to save their civilization, and the Council got a resource they desperately needed. President Vasquez called in every expert humanity had. Scientists examined the technology samples Oryx provided. Military advisors assessed the potential risks. Economists calculated the benefits. Everyone agreed that the technology alone could save billions of lives. The energy systems would end the wars over fuel. The medical treatments would cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. The mining technology would open up the asteroid belt and make space colonization finally viable. There were voices of caution. General Marcus Stone, head of Earth's Space Defense Force, argued that humanity knew nothing about these aliens or their true intentions. We are giving them access to our planet, our resources, and we have no way to verify their claims about this viridium. What if there is more to this than they are telling us? But the counter-arguments were strong. Earth was running out of time. The Council had demonstrated their good faith by sharing technology samples up front. Their ships had weapons that could have destroyed Earth easily if they had hostile intentions. Instead, they came with open hands and offers of friendship. The debate raged for days, but in the end, desperation made the choice. Earth's unified government voted to accept the Council's offer by a margin of 78%. The treaty was signed on January 15, 2158. President Vasquez and Minister Oryx stood before cameras broadcasting to every nation on Earth and across the solar system. The document was thick, filled with legal language and technical specifications. Elena signed her name on the digital pad, and Oryx did the same with the flowing gesture of its upper right hand. Fireworks exploded over New Geneva. Across the world, people celebrated in the streets. Humanity had been saved. They had friends among the stars. The Council moved quickly to fulfill their promises. Within weeks, massive cargo ships arrived in Earth orbit, carrying technology and equipment. Teams of Council engineers, scientists, and technicians came to Earth to help install the new systems and train humans in their use. They were professional and efficient, answering questions and providing demonstrations. The first power plants using Council technology came online 3 months after the treaty signing. They were clean, produced no waste, and generated energy levels that made nuclear fusion look primitive. Cities that had been suffering from rolling blackouts suddenly had power to spare. The medical centers received the new diagnostic and treatment equipment. Doctors watched in amazement as machines healed injuries and cured diseases in hours that would have taken months or been impossible before. Commander Lisa Park ran the asteroid mining operation in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. She had been a mining engineer for 20 years, working in the harshest environments humanity could reach. The new Council mining equipment was like magic compared to the old human technology. Massive automated systems could process entire asteroids in days, extracting pure metals and rare elements with perfect efficiency. Her team was pulling in resources at rates that would have been impossible just a year ago. The Council also established its mining operations for the viridium extraction. Large platforms were built in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, drilling deep into the seabed. The operations were completely run by Council workers. Humans were not allowed near the facilities, as Oryx explained that the extraction process required specialized knowledge and equipment that would take humans years to learn. It seemed reasonable at the time. For the first year, everything seemed perfect. Earth's economy boomed. Poverty rates dropped as energy became cheap and abundant. Space colonies expanded rapidly with the new technology. Mars went from a small outpost of a few thousand people to a growing colony of over 50,000. Humanity was reaching for the stars with real hope for the first time in decades. Dr. James Way was a geologist working for the United Earth Science Division. His job was to monitor the Council's mining operations and ensure they were following the terms of the treaty. The treaty specified that the Council could mine iridium, but must follow environmental protection protocols and report their extraction volumes monthly. For the first year, everything checked out. The reports came in on time, the environmental sensors showed no violations, and the Council seemed to be operating exactly as agreed. But in the 13th month after the treaty signing, James noticed something odd. He was reviewing deep Earth sensor data from the Pacific drilling platform when he saw readings that did not make sense. The Council had reported extracting 20,000 tons of iridium that month, but the seismic data showed drilling activity consistent with extracting nearly 10 times that amount. James ran the calculations 3 times, thinking he must have made an error. The numbers did not change. Asterisk. He brought his findings to his supervisor, who told him to investigate further before making any accusations. James spent the next 2 weeks gathering data from all the Council mining sites. The pattern was clear. Every single location showed the same discrepancy. The Council was extracting far more material than they reported, far more than the treaty allowed. But it got worse. James discovered something else in the deep sensor data. The Council was not just mining iridium. They were extracting other minerals too, rare elements that humanity needed for its own expansion. The treaty specifically forbade this. James prepared a detailed report and sent it directly to President Vasquez's office, marking it urgent. He also tried to send a copy to the Space Defense Force, but his transmission was blocked. A message appeared on his screen stating that all communications regarding Council operations required approval from the Council Liaison Office first. That had never been the case before. James felt a cold knot form in his stomach. 2 days later, James was arrested. Council security forces, backed by Earth security personnel, came to his home at dawn. The charges were espionage and spreading false information designed to damage Earth Council relations. James was taken to a detention facility and held without trial. His research was confiscated and sealed. When his colleagues tried to speak out, they were threatened with the same charges. The message was clear. Do not question the Council. President Vasquez received James's report before his arrest. But when she tried to confront Minister Oryx about it, she was shown the treaty section that gave the Council broad authority to determine optimal extraction methods and necessary resource acquisition. The language was vague, enough that the Council could interpret it however they wanted. Oryx smiled with its 3 eyes glittering and explained that Earth's sensors were simply not calibrated correctly to read Council mining equipment. There was no violation, just human misunderstanding. But Elena was not stupid. She ordered her own investigation, using military sensors and independent scientists. What they found was worse than James had reported. The Council had been systematically stripping Earth of every valuable resource they could reach. The viridium was just the beginning. They were taking titanium, platinum, rare earth elements, and dozens of other materials. They were doing it quietly and efficiently, and they had been doing it since day one. Earth had not made a trade agreement. They had signed away their planet to sophisticated thieves. When Elena confronted the Council with this evidence, everything changed. Minister Oryx dropped the friendly mask. The pearl-colored alien stood in the presidential office, all 4 arms crossed, and spoke in a voice as cold as deep space. President Vasquez, your species is in no position to make demands. We provided you with technology that saved your civilization. The price for that technology is access to your resources. This was always the arrangement. Elena stood her ground. The treaty specified limited mining of iridium only. You are violating our agreement and stealing from Earth. We demand you cease immediately and renegotiate terms, or we will consider this an act of war. Oryx made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. War? President Vasquez, your entire military could not scratch the paint on one of our cargo vessels. You have no leverage here. We will continue our operations as we see fit. Your people should be grateful we allow you to keep the technology we have given you. Many species in the galaxy are not so fortunate. The threat was clear and undeniable. Elena realized too late that Earth had walked into a trap. The Council had never intended a fair trade. They had found a desperate, primitive species sitting on resources they wanted. They had offered just enough help to make humanity dependent on Council technology, then revealed their true intentions once Earth was committed. It was not an invasion. It was a con, and humanity had fallen for it completely. Within days, Council forces made their next move. Human colonies across the solar system came under Council control. The asteroid mining operations, the Mars settlements, the lunar bases, all of them had been built using Council technology and equipment. That technology had hidden protocols that allowed the Council to take control remotely. Commander Lisa Park watched helplessly as her mining ships and facilities locked her out of the command systems. Council personnel arrived and simply took over, declaring the operations now under Council authority for efficiency and safety reasons. Any resistance was crushed instantly. A small colony on one of Jupiter's moons tried to fight back, refusing to surrender their facilities. A Council warship arrived and destroyed the entire colony with a single shot. 300 people died in an instant. The message was broadcast across all human channels. Obey or die. Earth's military tried to respond, but their weapons were useless against Council shields. Earth's handful of warships, built with human technology over decades, were destroyed in the first hour of conflict. General Stone watched from the command center as his fleet was torn apart like paper. Humanity had no defense against the Council's power. President Vasquez was forced to watch as her world was dismantled. The Council declared Earth and all its colonies to be under protective administration. Humans were allowed to live and use the Council technology, but all major decisions would be made by Council administrators. Earth had not been conquered in a traditional sense. It had been absorbed, taken over by legal technicalities and overwhelming force. The treaty humanity had signed gave the Council the authority to do all of this. The lawyers had buried the poison in pages of complex language that desperate humans had not read carefully enough. Minister Oryx appeared on every screen across Earth for one final announcement. People of Earth, the Galactic Council has assumed administration of your system for your own protection and development. You will continue to receive the benefits of our technology and guidance. In return, you will provide the resources we require. This is not occupation. This is partnership. Humanity is now part of the galactic community, though in a junior role, appropriate to your level of development. Accept this reality, and you will prosper. Resist, and you will suffer. The choice is yours. The people of Earth felt betrayed, angry, and helpless. They had trusted the Council, believed their promises of friendship and fair trade. Instead, they had been manipulated and enslaved in all but name. The Council had not even needed to fire many shots. They had simply been smarter, more prepared, and utterly ruthless in their exploitation of humanity's desperation. But what the Council did not know, what they could not have predicted, was that humans have one quality that makes them dangerous beyond their technology level. When cornered, when betrayed, when pushed to the absolute limit, humans do not break. They adapt. They learn. and they plan revenge. In secret facilities deep underground, away from Council sensors, a small group of humans began to work. They had copies of Council technology that had been hidden before the takeover. They had brilliant minds filled with rage and determination. And they had time. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity was broken and controlled. They were wrong. The storm was coming, and when it arrived, the galaxy would never be the same. The Stormbreak's 20 years had passed since the Council took control of Earth and its colonies. To the casual observer, humanity seemed broken and defeated. Earth cities ran smoothly under Council administration. The mining operations continued without incident. Human workers followed Council orders, extracting resources and maintaining the systems that kept their civilization alive. The Council had moved on to other concerns, barely thinking about the primitive species they had conquered so easily. Minister Oryx had been promoted and now oversaw 12 different systems, Earth being just one small part of his vast portfolio, but appearances can be deceiving. Deep beneath the Australian outback, in a facility that officially did not exist, Admiral Sarah Chun stood in a command center that represented 20 years of secret work. She was 52 years old now, her hair streaked with gray, but her eyes burned with the same fire that had driven her since the day the Council revealed their betrayal. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at stations monitoring systems that would have seemed impossible 2 decades ago. Sarah had been a young aerospace engineer when the Council arrived. She watched the betrayal happen, and she watched humanity surrender. But she refused to accept defeat. She gathered like-minded individuals, scientists and engineers who still had access to Council technology before the lockdown became complete. They went underground, literally and figuratively, building facilities in places the Council never bothered to scan carefully. Over 20 years, they had accomplished something remarkable. The project had a simple name, Project Phoenix. The idea was equally simple. If humanity could not fight the Council with current technology, then humanity would build better technology. They studied every piece of Council equipment they could access. They took it apart molecule by molecule, understanding how it worked. But they did not just copy it. Humans did what humans do best. They improved it, adapted it, and made it their own. Dr. Raj Patel led the weapons development team. He was a physicist who had spent his entire adult life working on this single goal: create weapons that could hurt the Council. The Council's shields were impressive, designed to deflect energy weapons and physical projectiles. But Raj and his team found the weakness. Every shield has a frequency, a specific wavelength it operates on. If you could match that frequency and phase your weapon correctly, you could slip right through the shield. It took 15 years of testing and countless failures, but they finally succeeded. The weapons they created used principles borrowed from Council technology but enhanced with human innovation. They called them phase cannons. The weapons fired focused beams of energy that oscillated through multiple frequencies simultaneously. No shield could block all frequencies at once. The beams punched through Council defenses like they were not even there. Raj tested the first successful prototype on a captured Council drone ship. The phase cannon tore through the drone's shields and hull in less than 2 seconds. He smiled for the first time in years. Commander David Torres ran the shipbuilding operations in a hidden facility on the dark side of the moon. The Council monitored Earth's surface carefully, but they had grown complacent about the moon, thinking it was fully under their control. David's team had been building ships in concealed bays carved deep into the lunar rock. Not just a few ships, an entire fleet. The ships were small compared to Council vessels, but they were fast and deadly. They used a new type of engine that David's team had developed, combining Council faster-than-light principles with human efficiency improvements. The result was a drive system that was actually faster and more maneuverable than anything the Council had. The ships were equipped with phase cannons, advanced targeting systems, and something the Council had never bothered with because they never needed it. Proper tactical doctrine. The Council fought with overwhelming force. Their ships were powerful and well shielded, so they simply approached enemies head-on and destroyed them with superior firepower. Humanity could not match that firepower, so they did not try. Instead, they studied ancient Earth naval tactics, fighter combat strategies, and guerrilla warfare principles. They created a fighting style based on speed, coordination, and hitting the enemy where they were weakest. Lieutenant Maria Santos commanded one of the new strike fighters. Sleek craft designed for hit-and-run attacks. She had trained for 5 years in simulators, practicing maneuvers and tactics that would have seemed suicidal to Council pilots. Her squadron could execute coordinated attacks with split-second timing, appearing from multiple directions, striking hard and vanishing before the enemy could respond. They were not warriors in the Council sense. They were hunters. The resistance network spread across the solar system, hidden in plain sight. Humans who appeared to be obedient workers were actually gathering intelligence, sabotaging Council equipment in subtle ways, and preparing for the day when the signal would come. That day arrived on March 3, 2178, exactly 20 years after the Council's takeover. Admiral Chun stood in the Phoenix Command Center, looking at the tactical display. It showed the positions of every Council ship and facility in the solar system. There were over 200 Council vessels, ranging from small patrol craft to massive battleships. The Council felt completely secure. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Sarah pressed the communication button that connected her to every resistance cell across the system. Her voice was calm and clear. "All units, this is Phoenix Prime. Operation Liberation is now active. Execute your assignments. Show them what humanity can do. Make them remember us." Across the solar system, humans moved into action. On Earth, saboteurs activated viruses they had planted in Council computer systems over years of patient work. Power grids failed. Communication networks went dark. Automated defenses turned on their Council operators. In orbit, the massive Council supply depot suddenly vented its atmosphere as emergency systems were triggered remotely. Hundreds of Council personnel scrambled for escape pods. The Council facility on Mars experienced a catastrophic reactor failure. The explosion lit up the Martian sky and destroyed the Council's main administrative center for the inner solar system. In the asteroid belt, mining stations that had been under Council control for 20 years suddenly went silent, their crews having overpowered the Council overseers and seized control. But the real shock came from the moon. The hidden bays opened and humanity's secret fleet emerged. 60 warships, each one bristling with phase cannons and carrying squadrons of strike fighters. They had been built in complete secrecy over 2 decades. The Council had no idea they existed until they appeared on sensors, already moving at attack speed toward Council positions. Minister Oryx was on his flagship, the Eternal Glory, when the attacks began. He had been reviewing trade reports, bored with the routine administration of conquered territories. When the alarm started screaming and his tactical officer reported human warships emerging from the moon, Oryx thought it was a malfunction. Humans had no warships. He had destroyed them all 20 years ago. Then the sensor displays showed the truth. Dozens of human vessels were accelerating toward his fleet. They were small, but they were fast and they were armed. Oryx felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. He ordered his ships to engage and destroy the human fleet immediately. The first Council battleship to respond was the Victorious Dawn, a massive vessel with shields that could withstand sustained fire from multiple Council warships. It moved to intercept the human attack, its captain confident that these primitive craft would be destroyed easily. Commander Torres's flagship, the Defiance, led the human attack wing. He did not try to engage the Council ship directly. Instead, his ships split into 3 groups, coming at the battleship from different angles at high speed. The Council ship fired its main weapons, massive plasma cannons that could melt through armor plating. But the human ships were too fast and too maneuverable. They dodged and weaved, their pilots executing maneuvers that seemed impossible. The plasma shots missed by meters. Then the human ships opened fire with their phase cannons. The beams punched through the Council shields like they were not there. The victorious Dawn's captain watched in horror as his shields failed to stop the incoming fire. The phase cannons tore into the hull, ripping through armor and systems. Within 30 seconds, the battleship was crippled, its engines offline and life support failing. The crew abandoned ship as the Defiance and its escorts moved on to the next target. Across the solar system, the pattern repeated. Council ships found themselves unable to defend against the phase cannons. Their shields were useless. Their weapons could not track the fast-moving human craft. Their tactics, based on overwhelming force, meant nothing when the humans refused to engage in direct combat. The human fighters swarmed like angry hornets, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before retaliation could arrive. Lieutenant Santos led her squadron in an attack on the Council's orbital command station above Earth. Station was heavily defended with automated weapon systems and a squadron of Council fighters. Maria's squadron came in fast and low, skimming the upper atmosphere to avoid early detection. When they rose to attack altitude, they were already inside the station's defensive perimeter. The Council fighters scrambled to intercept, but they were too slow. Maria's squadron executed a practiced maneuver, each fighter targeting specific points on the station's hull. They fired simultaneously, their phase cannons hitting the station's reactor shielding. The coordinated strike overwhelmed the defenses. The reactor exploded, and the entire station broke apart. Maria led her squadron through the debris field, her heart pounding with triumph. Minister Oryx tried to coordinate a defense, but his communications were jammed, and his ships were being destroyed faster than he could track. In 2 hours of combat, humanity's hidden fleet had destroyed or crippled over half of the Council forces in the solar system. The remaining ships were retreating in panic, trying to reach the jump points that would let them escape to Council space. Admiral Chun watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Council was broken and running, but she was not done yet. She opened a channel on all frequencies, broadcasting to every Council ship and facility. Her message was simple and direct. Council forces. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Fleet. For 20 years, you have occupied our system, stolen our resources, and treated us like slaves. That ends now. You came to us in peace and betrayed that peace. You thought we were weak and helpless. You were wrong. Humanity has given you one lesson today. We can fight. We can win. And we will never stop until we are free. She paused, then continued with ice in her voice. Here are our terms. All Council forces will leave our solar system immediately. All stolen resources will be returned or paid for at fair market value. Earth and its colonies are now independent and will be recognized as such by the Galactic Council. You will never again set foot in our system without permission. Accept these terms, or we will hunt down every one of your ships and destroy them. You have 1 hour to respond. On the Eternal Glory, Minister Oryx stared at the communication display. His 4 hands trembled with rage and humiliation. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be defeated and controlled. They were primitive and helpless. But the evidence was undeniable. His fleet was destroyed. His forces were retreating. Somehow, impossibly, humanity had not only survived, but had built weapons and ships that surpassed Council technology. Oryx realized then what he should have understood 20 years ago. Humans were dangerous not because they were strong, but because they adapted. Every species in the Council had reached their technological plateau and stayed there for centuries. They improved slowly, comfortably, without urgency. But humans, pressed against the wall, desperate and angry, had innovated at a pace the Council could not match. They had taken Council technology and made it better in just 20 years. What would they do with 50 years? With 100? Minister Oryx opened a communication channel to Admiral Chun. His voice had lost all its arrogance. Admiral Chun, the Council accepts your terms. We will withdraw from your system immediately. But know this, the full Council fleet numbers in the thousands. What you defeated today was a garrison force. If you truly wish for war, you cannot win. Sarah smiled coldly. Minister, we do not want war. We want to be left alone. But if you force us to fight, we will show you what desperate humans can accomplish. We have had 20 years to prepare for this day. Imagine what we will build in the next 20 if you give us a reason. Now get your ships out of our system before I change my mind about letting you leave. The Council forces retreated. Every ship, every facility, every piece of Council presence in human space was withdrawn within 24 hours. They took nothing with them. Earth had won its freedom through ingenuity, determination, and a willingness to fight when all seemed lost. President Michael Jong, elected just 2 years earlier, addressed the people of Earth from the same hall where President Vasquez had signed the treaty 20 years before. Today, humanity has proven what we have always known in our hearts. We are not weak. We are not helpless. When we are pushed, we push back harder. The Council thought they could control us forever. They were wrong. We are free. We are strong. And we will never be conquered again. Across Earth and its colonies, people celebrated. They had won against impossible odds. They had taken back their freedom from an enemy that seemed invincible. The cost had been high. 20 years of occupation and suffering. Thousands of lives lost in the resistance. But they had survived, and they had won. Admiral Chun stood at the window of the Phoenix Command Center, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was regrouping, probably debating what to do about the human problem. Let them debate. Humanity had learned its lesson. Never trust blindly. Never stop innovating. Never give up, no matter how dark things seem. The Council had betrayed humanity and thought they could get away with it. They had learned the hard way that humans, when pushed to the edge, do not break. They become something far more dangerous. They become survivors who refuse to quit. The galaxy would remember this day. The day humanity said no. The day Earth's fleet arrived and changed everything. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. They had the stars within reach now, and they would claim them on their own terms. No council, no masters, just humanity, free and determined to never be victims again. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humans once. They would never make that mistake again. Asterisk.